Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Season 3 of the Ice Bath Sports Podcast. I'm Griff.
I'm Matt.
And we are back for yet another season of the Ice Bath Sports Podcast. It's been a while. It's been since the Super Bowl.
It has. Pull out the party poppers. We are 3 years old.
We are 3 years old.
Technically 2, but this is Season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you do those maths. It's guy math right
Yeah.
there. You haven't heard from us since the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Wild off season.
It was. A lot of crazy things happened. Saquon Barkley is now a Philadelphia Eagle.
He is. Congratulations. You guys have a running back.
Thank you. Behind one of the best O-lines in the league. We'll get into that a little later. Best. And, Kirk Cousins is an Atlanta Falcon.
He is.
Russell Wilson's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Michael Penix Jr. is also an Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah, well, the Atlanta Falcons, you win some, you lose some. That's just kind of how it goes in the NFL.
So basically, what we're going to do is our first 2 episodes are focused around the fantasy football season and your draft prep. First episode, we're going to talk about our quarterback and wide receiver rankings. And then episode 2, we're going to be talking about our wide receivers and tight ends. And then we're going to be getting into a bunch of draft stuff. We have a lot of cool things planned. Matt and I are both playing in a league against each other this year for the first time.
Yes.
First time we've been in a fantasy football league.
Kiper league.
Yeah. So we'll be following that league this year. We got a lot of cool things planned, as you guys could see. We got a whole new setup going. Big plans for this year.
Yeah.
So,
Matt,
in
the quality, up in the content. You're gonna want to subscribe now. You want to get in early.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to buy low, sell high. Am I right?
I guess so.
just like you're gonna do to these following players in football. All right, no. Let's just jump into it. We'll start with our quarterback rankings.
Yeah, let's go into our quarterback rankings. I think this is a very interesting year because obviously you have like the top 4, which are kind of interchangeable. I'd say. Yeah. And then from there, it's a lot of preference, and I think we have a couple differences in some of our rankings. So it'll be interesting to go through these. I think for quarterbacks, we just cover the top 20.
I'm totally on board with that. I think this year there's definitely like a clear, like you said, tier 1. You got 4 interchangeable quarterbacks at tier 1. Yeah. Tier 2, a little bit bigger. I think tier 3 is going to be very, very large. In my opinion, we'll get into that in a second. But it is interesting, the quarterback position this year in fantasy football.
Yeah. Let's start off at number 20. Who is your number 20 quarterback in fantasy this year going into the draft season?
I have Baker Mayfield, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Wow, that is crazy because so do I.
Really? Because it's a guy that, he produced last year.
Yeah.
He put up numbers. Baker Mayfield last year was a 4,000-yard passer, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, had 284 total fantasy points, but he wasn't flashy. And they relied very heavily on Rashad White. Not much changed over there in Tampa Bay.
No.
But I do think that Baker Mayfield is a very solid choice. And, if he's my backup, I'm not upset.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where he might not get drafted in a lot of leagues, but he's one of those guys to, fill in for bye weeks. He might be that. I guess, last or 2 years ago, it was, Jared Goff was always that guy for people. You see him getting picked up and dropped in every league.
Yeah.
I feel like Baker's one of those guys that could plug and play for pretty much any week this season.
100%. Before we jump into number 19, I do want to say one honorable mention for myself. That's Will Levis. I think Will Levis is going to have a breakout season. You upgrade that receiving core. I know DeAndre Hopkins is out for probably the first couple of weeks with a knee injury. When you get him back, you're looking at a receiving core of DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley was the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville last year. Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. It doesn't matter where he goes, who's throwing to him, he's going to put up numbers. And Tyler Boyd has been a more than serviceable number 3 option in Cincinnati. And not to mention the new head coach for Tennessee. I'm blanking on his name. I think it's Brian Calhoun or something. He is the former Bengals OC, so he's familiar with Tyler Boyd. He was huge in the development of that offense last year, and I think Will Levis is going to take a big jump. I think he's a sneaky sleeper to watch out for on the waiver wire.
I like it. All right, jump. We'll kind of fly through these bottom ones. Number 19, I have Justin Herbert. I'm pretty low on Herbert. I know you are as well, just because he doesn't have much there.
Well, you take away Keenan Allen, you take away Michael Williams, that your two best receivers, and you bring in a coach that's runs a run heavy offense. It doesn't bode well for Justin Herbert, whose stats have also declined over the last 3 years. He has not really seen as much success as his rookie year.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I actually have Justin Herbert outside my top 20. My number 19 is Jaden Daniels. I think he has tremendous upside, but I think there's a lot of risk with going with a mobile quarterback from Washington. We've seen how it can work out with RG3. We've also seen how it can backfire with RG3. Jaden Daniels is also a rookie. That offensive line's a little questionable. I think, as a backup, he's great. He has starting potential, but I wouldn't bank on him as your starter.
I'm higher on him. I have him just outside the QB1 range. We'll get to that. But I do have him at number 13.
Oh, wow. Okay. Moving on to number 18.
Yep.
I got Caleb Williams, another rookie quarterback, in a great position. I think he also has very high upside. I think he also could be a quarterback one to finish the season. But again, it's a rookie quarterback. It's hard to trust. Shaky offensive line, great weapons. Where do you got Caleb Williams?
I don't have him ranked.
Really?
I have him outside my top 20.
I just, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, as long as he has, 2-3 seconds to throw, I find it hard for him
wait,
not
I
to be a
lied.
playmaker.
I completely lied to you just now, Matt. I have Caleb Williams at number 17.
Oh, so one ahead of mine. Okay,
Yeah.
so you got an 18.
Yeah. 18, I have Matt Stafford.
Oh, interesting.
Matt Stafford, I do feel he is going to have another just good season. He's one of those guys where he's very consistent. You have Puka Nacua, you have Cooper Kupp. You have a great run game. So, I mean, it sets him up for a lot of success. I just have him a little lower because I think they're going to rely on Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, in the run game a little bit.
It's funny because I agree with everything you just said, which is why I have Matthew Stafford as my 14th ranked quarterback. I just think he's so reliable and consistent when he's healthy. I think he's a QB1 when he is healthy.
You're reading in the wrong order, by the way. You started off at Baker, who was your number 20 or number 19.
Oh, so I had Rodgers in my 20. Okay.
Yeah, Rodgers was your number 20.
Yeah, my bad. I was looking at the spreadsheet, the order.
So Stafford, you have at 13.
Stafford, I have 13. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Take away one from all my rankings.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. So Daniels is technically my 18. Williams is my 17. Baker's my 19. I have Rodgers at 20. That's self-explanatory. Self-explanatory is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on.
All right, let's move into 17. Like I said, I have Caleb Williams here.
Okay. Yeah, I also have Caleb Williams at 17, evidently.
All right.
Yeah, I kind of made this a little confusing. So
yeah, your spreadsheet started at row 1, which was the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No, I adjusted. All right, going to 16. Quarterback 16. I have Trevor Lawrence.
I also have Trevor Lawrence at number 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Losing a receiver like Calvin Ridley is kind of big. I do think he has enough weapons to, put together a solid season. You still have Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram. Couldn't tell you what else they got there.
So my thing with Trevor Lawrence, not to cut you off, but here's a guy we've been waiting on a breakout season forever. So I don't want to put him too high because last year, we did put him too high, and he was mediocre.
Yeah.
But he has more weapons now than he ever had, in quantity, not quality. Now, he still has his number one receiver from last year. Evan Ingram led that team in targets last year, and he was probably Lawrence's favorite target. So the loss of Calvin Ridley does hurt, but you brought in Gabe Davis in the offseason, and then you also... drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round. So I mean, between Thomas's upside and Gabe Davis shows up when he needs to, sometimes.
And you can't forget about Travis Etienne out of the backfield as well.
And I mean, Christian Kirk is still there. He's probably their number one right now. I mean, that's a fine receiving core.
I agree.
I think it's quantity over quality. But I think that may just be what Trevor Lawrence needs to have, I'd say breakout season.
Yeah. Number 15, I got Kirko Chains.
I have Jared Goff.
Okay.
Who's your 14?
Brock Purdy.
Okay, because I have Kirk Cousins as my 14.
Oh, okay. I'm a little higher on Goff.
Yeah, go on.
Kirk Cousins. I mean, you look at this team. I know Rondale Moore just got hurt, which he actually could have been a solid weapon for that team, I think. Mm-hmm. But you still have I almost said Marvin Harrison Jr. That's crazy. You have Drake London. You've got Darnell Mooney. You got Kyle Pitts. You've got the weapons. You have Bijan out of the backfield. Plus, it's Kirk Cousins. Consistent.
He is. As long as it's a 1 o'clock game, Kirk Cousins is going to deliver. That's why I have him as my 14th ranked quarterback. For all the reasons you said, you look at his time in Minnesota, what do you have? A really good tight end and a top receiver. I think Drake London's going to, take that next step this year.
Totally
I think he will be that top receiver that Kirk needs. And they have, Kyle Pitts at tight end, who Arthur Smith had chilling in the basement for the last 2-3 seasons doing nothing. I think, now he, again, has a good tight end, a good receiver. He has a great running back, like you said, in Bijan Robinson, a top 10 O-line. There's no reason Kirk Cousins shouldn't continue to put up the numbers he has over the last couple seasons. Now, I know Drake London's not Justin Jefferson. I know he doesn't have Jordan Addison. But, this is a guy that was thrown to KJ Osborne for several years.
Yeah.
And some guy named Olabisi. I think, having Darnell Mooney is an upgrade over those two. I think Kirk Cousins is going to be just fine. Now, Jared Goff, kind of the same thing. Has great weapons, great offensive line, was very above average last year. That's why I have him as my 15th ranked quarterback, because I think he will continue to put up solid numbers, but I think Detroit's going to rely so heavily on the run game that Goff's not going to get you those 30, 40-point games you want out of a quarterback.
I have Jared Goff as my number 12, so a fringe quarterback 1 in 12-man leagues. For all the reasons, like you said, he played out of his mind last year, and that team is very good.
Yeah, they are. I mean, the Lions got to be the favorites in the NFC.
It's crazy
between the Eagles and San Fran.
We look at, in our lifetime, a team that won 2 games in a span of 2 years to this team that could be a powerhouse in the NFC.
Right. I mean, Jared Goff threw for just shy of 4,600 yards last year, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, over 300 total fantasy points. He was very, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you needed him in a pinch, he probably provided that.
Yeah. Number 14, I got Brock Purdy. I am lower on Brock Purdy, mainly because of the Ayuk situation. Mm-hmm. Without Brandon Ayuk, this offense is kind of nothing, in my opinion. I think without Brandon Ayuk, this team is pretty mid. Their defense, of course, is going to be great, and they have a great run game. But I don't think they'll have enough weapons to get it done on offense.
Now, I'm not going to say I'm a big Brock Purdy truther, because I think he is a very slightly above average quarterback. But you still have Trent Williams protecting your blind side. Brock Purdy is all about precision. He's all about getting the ball out. Now, I think Ayuk was really good at giving him a good look on his first read. I think Ayuk was good at getting open in the first, second or two. But if they do move on from Ayuk, I don't think it's going to hurt his production, as much as you're saying. I mean, you still have George Kittle, arguably the best tight end in the league. If you're
Very
including blocking in that. You have Christian McCaffrey, the clear-cut best running back in the league. Like I said, Trent Williams protecting his blind side, probably the best left tackle in the league. And Deebo Samuel, he had a down year last year, but he's still a weapon. Those are 3 guys right there that I think are going to do just fine. I mean, losing Ayuk would hurt, don't get me wrong. But they did take Ricky Pearsall. in the first round. I think they have big expectations from him. And again, Brock Purdy is the type of guy where it doesn't matter who he's throwing it to. He's going to get the ball out. That's why I have him at number 10.
I respect it. Number 13. Wait, you talked about Kirk
I talked
already.
about yeah.
Number 13, I have Jaden Daniels. Another reason why I'm a little higher on him, especially like higher than Caleb Williams, especially, is I think Jaden Daniels is going to run for close to double-digit touchdowns. And he does have such a big arm, and I think Terry McLaurin has a big year. I don't think Washington's going to be as bad as people think. They're not going to be good.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to be that bad. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the reason they stay in some games that they really shouldn't be in.
I am also a Jaden Daniels fan. The reason I have him so low is just, like I was saying before, I mean, there's a lot of risk.
There is.
I already talked about my number 13, Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
You have Kupp, you have Puka Nacua, and Stafford is just consistently good when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Moving on to 12.
Yes, sir. I got Jared Goff. We already talked about him.
Yeah, I have Tua Tagovailoa, or Tua Tagovailoa, bruh.
He's my number 11, so.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tua. I mean, you're throwing a Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tua had a great year last year. He led the league in passing yards, 4,600 yards. He had 29 touchdowns. Interceptions were a little high with 14. Probably looking to bring those down. I would have Tua higher, except, I do think Mike McDaniel's offense is going to rely very heavily on the run game.
Totally agree.
Once again this year, I think that will hinder his performance.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 11 for pretty much the same exact reasons. When you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you're going to put up fantasy points.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to stretch the ball downfield and have those big plays. And he's going to throw a lot of touchdowns, even in the red zone. They're just going to run quick little screen plays. So, yeah, that's why I have Tua at number 11. He's
they did
definitely,
just pay him.
Yeah, they did just pay him, and I think he's a quarterback one.
Yeah, I think he's fringe. Yeah.
Number 10, cracking our top 10, I've got Dak Prescott.
Well, I didn't talk about my 11.
Oh, you did not?
No. My 11's Kyler Murray. I can just be quick with this. Mobile quarterback. Definitely going to get you those points rushing the ball. But you look at his receiving core. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be great, no doubt about it. But it's a rookie receiver. At the end of the day, you're relying on as your wide receiver one. There's a lot of big expectations coming out there. If there was a veteran receiver like a Keenan Allen that accompanied, Marvin Harrison Jr., I'd probably have Kyler Murray a little higher. But just because you look at his receiving core and it's not the most appealing. I mean, yeah, you do have Trey McBride. But I think he's also a fringe quarterback one.
That's very fair. I have him at number 9, so not too much higher than you.
Yeah.
Number 10, I got Dak Prescott. A lot of this also relies on this CeeDee Lamb situation because Jerry Jones is, he's something.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could go out and say that your best player on your team is not a priority in getting his deal done.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend forever talking about how dysfunctional the Cowboys organization is as a whole, but I had Brock Purdy as my 10. I do have Dak Prescott as my number 8 ranked quarterback. It's the Cowboys. They're going to hold out this drama. It's going to be a week before the season starts. CeeDee Lamb's going to get re-signed, and Dak's going to go out and have another, I think, sizable year. Last year, 4,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He was very reliable. I think he will, kind of not repeat those same numbers, but get pretty close.
And their run game's much worse than it was last year.
It is. They're going to have to rely a lot more on the passing game.
Dak's just always a good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah. That's why I have him as QB1. Moving on to 9.
Yeah, I got Kyler.
Okay.
Just purely based off of his running ability.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to run a lot. Fully healthy Kyler. And he showed it with his arm last year when he came back. He's able to still stretch that ball downfield. He's got a big arm. I love Kyler Murray, and I think he's a top 10 quarterback for fantasy. Think he has a big year, and I think once him and Marvin Harrison develop a connection, I would assume pretty early on, they're just going to be able to hit the ground running on offense.
Yeah, my number 9 is Jordan Love. Jordan Love just got paid. He had a great season in his debut season, 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's just going to get better. His number 1 last year, it depends who you ask. Is it Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed? Who knows? But all those receivers were very young. They get another year of experience. They're all very talented. Who's the Matt LaFleur there is a great offensive coordinator. I think Love's going to have another great season. I think he's not even fringe quarterback 1. I think he is a QB 1.
Yeah. Number 8.
I have Dak.
And I have Joe Burrow. I'm a little lower on Burrow than some people. I don't know. I just think the guys that I have above him, a lot of it has to do with their mobility. Mm-hmm. And in fantasy, that's very valuable. Yeah. When you have a guy who's got a great arm, very accurate passers who could also run. I just rank them a little higher. Burrow, I think, could easily finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year. I'm expecting huge things out of Jamar Chase as well as T. Higgins. And, yeah, I mean, Burrow's just consistent as well.
Yeah, Burrow's my ranked 7 quarterback. I think Burrow is going to have a good year. I think he's going to have a great year. He's going to bounce back. He played 10 games last year. He did have that wrist injury.
Yeah.
He wasn't fantastic in those 10 games, 2,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks. But we've seen what he can do when he's healthy.
Yeah.
And he has Jamar Chase, who, again, same with the CD Lamb situation. They're going to get a contract figured out.
100%.
Receivers such an important piece of the game.
And they're such divas.
They are. They are. But, when you have a top 10 receiver, you're not going to let them walk.
Yeah.
Most logical people, football fans, would tell you that you're not going to let them walk. So I think Jamar Chase is going to stay. T. Higgins in a prove-it year. I think Burrow is going to have a really big year. Moving on. Who you got? That was my 7.
Ooh, Burrow? Oh, yeah. I got Jordan Love.
Okay.
Jordan Love, you hit the nail on the head with him. I mean, he developed that connection with a lot of his younger receivers, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed. They're going to be a sneaky good team, I think, this year, again, just like they were last year. Jordan Love deserved to get paid. He sat a couple years behind Aaron Rodgers, really had his chance last year, and he proved it. And he's only going to be climbing rankings from here, I think.
Fair. Moving on to my number 6. Before I jump into these top 6, because we don't want to keep the people's time for too long. Do you want to speed run?
Yeah, let's speed run them because like episode 3, 4, 5, we're gonna be diving into a lot of these players.
Right.
So.
Well, and a lot of these rankings we can kind of speed run a little bit because we're doing receiver next, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll do our top 25 receivers or whatever speed run, and let us know in the comments if there's somebody you want to hear more about.
Yeah.
But also, top 5 or 6, like we were saying before, interchangeable, self-explanatory. My number 6 is Anthony Richardson.
I've got C.J. Stroud.
I've Stroud as my 5.
Yep, and I got Richardson as my 5.
Interchangeable right there.
Yep.
One quick thing I do want to say, small sample size of Richardson is a big gamble.
100%.
But a lot of people are riding heavy on him. All signs point to him having a big year. I don't see how he doesn't. And Stroud, you look at those weapons that you had, Stephon Diggs, to what he already had. He's got a big year.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Richardson guy in college. I just don't really like Florida. But Anthony Richardson is kind of like my fantasy ride or die this year.
Okay.
And I think I will be taking him in most leagues and just hoping that the gamble pays off and he could stay healthy.
Let's jump into our top 4. You want to just do 1, 2, 3, 4?
No, we
got 4, 3, 2, 1. You know what I mean? Like go.
Yeah. I got Mahomes at 4.
Okay.
I got Lamar Jackson at 3, Jalen Hurts at 2, and Josh Allen at 1.
I'm pretty close. I have Lamar at 4, Mahomes at 3, Hurts at 2, Allen 1. So our top 2 are identical, and then 3 and 4
no matter how many weapons Josh Allen loses on offense, he could still do it with his legs as well, and he could really find the way to throw to anybody.
Well,
Keon Coleman looks like he's going to be really good.
Yeah.
He's got Dalton Kincaid, who could be a top fantasy tight end this year.
Yeah. So what people forget is Allen only threw for 29 passing touchdowns last year. Those receptions are going to get reallocated elsewhere. I don't think it's going to affect his run game production. He had 524 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. Losing Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis isn't going to hurt his rushing production, in my opinion.
I agree.
Let's move on to receivers. We'll do our top
24.
24?
Yeah, because two wide receivers a team, 12-man league, 24.
Yeah,
Quick
makes
math.
sense to me. All right, my number 24 receiver is Cooper Kupp.
Mine is a guy that I talked about briefly when I was talking about Jaden Daniels. I got Terry McLaurin. I think he's in for a good year. I think he'll be the guy that Jaden Daniels kind of relies on early and kind of gets his feet wet. And he's also just always consistent. I think that's the theme of my rankings is consistency.
Now, quick pause. Where are we at right now on time? I want to know how much time I can talk about some of these guys.
We are at 26 minutes.
Oh, we're golden. We are golden. I have McLaurin at 28. I have Cooper Kupp at 24. Now, Cooper Kupp is a big question mark because you look at... everyone goes back to his Triple Crown here. Have you ever taken a look at his stats, accumulatively? Have you ever looked at any other year that Cooper Kupp has been in the league? He's been hurt or he hasn't produced over 1,000 yards. I'm pretty sure, and you can correct me on this, Cooper Kupp's only 1,000-yard season came in that fantastic one where he was the Triple Crown.
Is that true?
Last year, he had how many games did he play? 12 games. He put up 737 yards, all 59 receptions, 5 touchdowns.
2019, he had 1,110 touchdowns.
Okay, so one other year.
Yep.
1,100. I mean, okay, that's kind of mid. But yeah, you look at those stats. Have they really popped out aside from that 1 year? And now you have Puka Nacua in the conversation. I think Kupp is still going to get fed those targets. I think he still is a very talented receiver. I'd worry about his injury history. So there's big risk there. That's why I have him at 24.
I like it. I'm not going to say where I have him. I'll just wait till we get to that part.
Okay, I'll only say where I have your guys if I have him past 24.
Yeah.
23?
23, I have Stephon Diggs.
Okay.
I did make a little adjustment. At first, I was going to have Diggs as the wide receiver 3 on Houston, but I do have him as the wide receiver 2. I have him a little ahead of Tank Dell, who I have at 26, so not a huge gap. I think all 3 wide receivers on the Houston team eat this year. Mm-hmm. They're going to be very pass-heavy, I think.
Yeah.
That's why I'm much lower. We'll get to it in our running back rankings. I'm much lower on Joe Mixon than a lot of people. He's pretty low on a lot of people's rankings. But yeah, Stephon Diggs, I think he's going to be the guy to catch those underneath routes, medium to short routes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nico Collins is going to be the guy to stretch the field. Tank Dell is going to be kind of their gadget guy and use in multiple different ways, I think. Stephon Diggs, though, I mean, it's hard to not include him in the top 24 here.
Yeah, I agree 100%. My 23 is Rashee Rice. Now,
wow.
They're up until this point. The only reason people have been down on Rashee Rice is because they think he's going to face legal trouble. I've done extensive research on this, and Rashee Rice, as of right now, no verdict has been come to that.
Yeah, no, he's not going to get a suspension this year.
And they don't think it's going to come to a conclusion this year.
Yeah.
So Rashee Rice should be playing all 17 games. So you're telling me a receiver that had a great rapport with Mahomes on his rookie season, finished the season very, very strong. In 16 games, he had 79 catches, 938 yards, and 7 touchdowns. As a rookie, that's pretty darn good. And you have Mahomes throwing you. You are the number 1 in Mahomes' offense, in that Kansas City Chiefs offense. I think he has tremendous upside. I mean, I have him at 23, which is a little low. But that's because, he is going in that sophomore year. I do think he could be going a little higher. But as of right now, I'm at 23. I think tremendous upside, though. I think he could finish as a wide receiver 1.
Rashee Rice I have at 38.
Wow.
And that's my keeper in one of my leagues. So I am a little biased towards him. I thought I was pretty high on him.
No,
I like it, though. I think it's a little bold.
You look at the situation. I mean, the only thing you can say against him is that they were facing legal trouble. Or he was facing legal trouble. Other than that, what's not to like?
That's fair.
You look at what he did last year with Mahomes.
He drops a lot of passes.
He's had a whole offseason to work on that. He was a rookie.
I hope he worked on his hands. I could see it, though. I could see him having a breakout year. I am a little lower on him, and we'll see. I mean, I have him as wide receiver 2 on the Chiefs, but this list was made before the injury. I have Hollywood Brown as my number 27.
I did adjust this for Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, I did not adjust. Did not have the time.
I mean,
my rankings were made a couple days ago.
You look at from, I don't even know what week this is, from their Vegas game last year, where he had 8 catches, 170 yards, a touchdown. He followed that up, 8 catches, 64 yards. Followed that up, 7 catches, 72 yards, a touchdown. Followed that up, 9 catches, 91 yards, a touchdown. Then 6 catches, 57 yards, and then 5 catches for 127 yards. He finished the season really strong. He was on fire last year. And then, I mean, he was great in the playoffs. I think Rashee Rice has wide receiver 1 upside. If that's bold, so be it. That's why we do these.
We like hot takes here.
Yeah, and cold beers.
Yeah. Number 22. Wait.
Did you do your 23? Yeah, you did. 22.
Yeah, I got Cooper Kupp.
Ooh, okay.
Little higher than you, only a couple spots. I do think Cooper Kupp has a great season. The Rams' offense is going to be putting up a lot of points, I think, between on the ground with Kyren Williams, and then obviously through the air you got Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp's just, I think he's kind of slept on right now because of the Puka Nacua hype, and I am a Puka Nacua hype man as well.
How could you not like Puka?
I think with the hype around Puka Nacua, it's going to open up more opportunities for Cooper Kupp in the passing game as well.
Interesting. My 22 is Nico Collins. Spoiler alert, I think Nico Collins is the wide receiver 2 in that offense. It took him till year 3 to actually have a breakout year.
That wasn't his fault, though.
Yeah, but I mean, to that argument, DeAndre Hopkins was putting up numbers without a quarterback.
That's fair.
Nico Collins, 80 catches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's a lot of volume. And now you bring in Stephon Diggs, who I'm going to talk about a little more later. And I think it's going to take away from his target share. I still think Nico Collins is going to have a solid year. I have him in the range as my is the same as my wide receiver 21 and 20, who are both wide receiver 2s, and I think he's in going to be in a very high velocity passing attack offense. I think he's still going to have a great year. I think he's going to have around 1,100 yards, but I don't think he's going to be that wide receiver 1 status like he was last year.
That's very fair. Number 21.
I'm Jalen Waddle. That was the wide receiver 2 I was just referencing. Waddle's a great receiver. He could be number 1 on a lot of teams. He's fast. He puts up numbers. He had 72 catches, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns last year. But I think his production is going to always be capped because he's playing next to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Number 21, I have Christian Kirk. We talked about him briefly. Wide receiver 1 on his own team. I think he's going to get a lot of targets from Trevor Lawrence this year. They've been together for a couple of years now. They've really built that connection. And I think he's just much better than Gabe Davis and rookie Brian Thomas. So he's going to get a lot of that target share. And for me in fantasy, volume is king.
Yeah, I like Christian Kirk. I have him as my wide receiver 26.
I think that's a fair spot. Who's your 21? Oh, you said Waddle already. Number 20.
Schmitty, Slim Batman, Skinny Batman, the Slim Reaper, Devonta Smith. Another guy that I think is going to finish as a high-end wide receiver too. Bold take. I think he's going to have a huge year. He's had 1,000 yards or come very close to 1,000 yards in every season he's been in the league. He's playing next to A.J. Brown, so he's drawing a cornerback too in most matchups. Now that he's in Kellen Moore's offense, Kellen Moore's the new OC in Philly, Kellen Moore loves to feature the wide receiver too. And I think Devonta Smith's going to be the biggest beneficiary of that.
Totally agree.
I think Smith's in for a huge year in a high-powered offense.
I agree. Number 20, I have DJ Moore.
Okay.
This might be a hot take. I still believe that DJ Moore is a tier above Keenan Allen right now, especially with Keenan Allen's age and being unfamiliar with this scheme. DJ Moore had a really big season last year. You have numbers, right?
Yeah, DJ Moore had 96 catches, 1,300 yards, 1,364 yards, 8 touchdowns. He had a huge year. I owned him last year.
Yeah, so 96 catches, high volume.
It felt like he was putting up numbers every week.
I believe he's going to be that safety net guy for Caleb Williams, and I also think he's going to be the guy when they want the big play. He's going to be able to stretch the field.
100% agree. I'm a huge DJ Moore fan for this season. Like I said, I owned him last year.
Wow, you're even higher. I like it.
Yeah. I'll talk about him in a little bit. My number 19, we're on 19, right?
Yep.
DK Metcalf.
So is mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Metcalf has just been so consistent over the years.
Yeah.
Last year, 66 catches, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. And you look at his stats, every year looks pretty similar to that.
Yeah, I think he has even a more receptions going into this year. Height, weight, speed. It's just a model of a receiver that you want to have on your team.
He is probably the perfect wide receiver too, because he's probably going to get you 13 to 14 points every week.
Yeah.
And there's always that potential that he's going to have a massive week where he has 2-3 touchdowns,
100%,
150 yards.
Yeah.
Who's your 18?
18, I have Deebo Samuel. I do think these rankings could all change, like I said, depending on the Brandon Ayuk situation. I think Brandon Ayuk opens up a lot of potential for Deebo Samuel. And you look at Deebo at the end of the season. Let me pull up his games. So you talk about your number 18. Well, I pull up some stats here.
My number 18 is Chris Olave. Lower than a lot of people have him. I think Olave's going to be a fine receiver too, like he was last year. 87 catches, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. But what's changed in that offense, since last year? They still have Derek Carr at quarterback. I forget who their head coach is off the top of my head. It's like something in Allen, right?
Yeah, it's Dennis Allen.
Dennis Allen, yeah. Mid. Just like that offense, just like that entire team. Chris Olave doesn't speak out to me on paper of anything, spectacular, but I think he is going to get you between 14 and 17 points a week. That's a fine receiver too. He's not flashy, but he's going to give you decent production.
Deebo Samuel, just going back to him real quick, last year had 892 receiving yards, 225 rushing, 5 rushing touchdowns, 7 receiving touchdowns on a year where he was playing hurt for most of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Receiver, the Netflix series.
I've not gotten around to that.
God, it's phenomenal. Deebo, I fell in love with Deebo Samuel on this one. I think he's one of those guys where you want him in the locker room. He's just a great team guy, great for team morale, and he gets it done, whether it's on the ground, underneath in short routes. But without Brandon Ayuk, those possibilities for him are a lot slimmer, I think.
Interesting. Okay.
So tentatively, he's my number 18.
I have Deebo just outside my top 24 at number 25.
All right. That's fair.
We're on 17?
Yep.
I got Amari Cooper.
Oh, okay. I have Cooper at number 25.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. No, I think Cooper, again, another guy that is a lunch pail guy. He's going to come in. He's going to, get you your 14 to 18 points a week. And you know what? Once a year, he's going to have a massive year like he did last season.
Where he put up like 56 fantasy points.
Yeah. The game that actually cost me a spot in the fantasy championship in one league.
Cost a lot of people.
I think, maybe I do have a little animosity from that went into this, and that's why he's ranked so highly.
He was on my roster for that game, too.
Listen, man, I don't want to talk about it. I'm having PTSD just thinking about it. But, again, last year, 72 catches, exactly 1,250 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's like textbook what you want from a number one receiver. As a team, he's a number 2 in fantasy. I think he's a great number 2 at that, and he's going pretty low in a lot of mock drafts I've done.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people have him in that range where I have him in that 25, 26 range.
Yeah.
My number 17, a guy you already talked about, Jalen Waddle.
Okay.
There's going to be endless possibilities in that offense. There's so much speed in that offense where you can't cover everybody.
Yeah.
And if you have a corner that could somewhat cover Tyreek Hill, you're not going to have a second one that could cover Jalen Waddle. So there's going to be big play opportunities for Jalen Waddle. And they like to run a lot of trick plays with him, a lot of end rounds and whatnot. Jalen Waddle's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes as a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy this year.
Interesting. Okay. He's I already talked about him, but I think he's a great receiver. I have him 4 spots lower.
Yeah.
Moving on to 16. You already talked about this guy. I briefly mentioned him, but Stephon Diggs is my number 16. I'm pretty high on him because I think he's the wide receiver 1 in Houston. I think it does hurt his value that he's fighting Nico Collins and Tank Dell for target share.
Yeah.
But this is a guy that still is going to produce, given he had 107 receptions last year, only had 1180 yards and 8 touchdowns. But last year was a down year for Diggs. And a lot of that came in early on in the season. Late in the season, he wasn't really utilizing that Buffalo offense. I think he will be in this Houston offense. I think having a receiver across from him that's better than Gabe Davis, 2 receivers playing with him that's better than Gabe Davis. I'd say Tank Dell's better than Gabe Davis.
I totally agree with that.
I think that's going to give him a lot more opportunities. Diggs has been great everywhere he's played. Minnesota, Buffalo, and now Houston.
I have his teammate at 16. I got Nico Collins. Nico Collins, okay. I've been a huge fan of him ever since he was at Michigan. And I've been on the Nico Collins train. Nico, if you see this, we DM'd you on Instagram. Can you get back to us? Nico Collins, I think, is going to be, like I said, the guy that they target down the field, and he's going to have a lot of big play opportunity.
Yeah.
And with that big play opportunity comes a lot of yards and potential touchdowns, which is going to lead to more fantasy points.
Okay.
So his volume might not be as large as what he had last year, but I think he's going to put up similar numbers, and he could come close to that 1,300-yard mark again.
Now, how many spots do you have between Collins and Diggs? You have Collins is 16. Diggs is where?
23.
Oh, so 7 spots?
Yeah.
I have Diggs at 16, Collins at 22, so 6 spots.
Yep.
I think we're pretty much in unison that one of those 2 guys is going to be the one.
100%.
But both are going to be good. You can't go wrong with either.
Yep.
Moving on to 15, I have DJ Moore.
Okay.
I know you talked about him earlier. Huge year last year, as we said, 96 catches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he has a better quarterback thrown to him.
Yeah.
I think he does have Keenan Allen now across from him that's going to compete for target share, but I think that you're going to see a lot more pass-heavy of an attack in Chicago now. I don't think that's going to change. I think DJ Moore is a young receiver. I think he's a very great receiver. He's dynamic. Different play style from Keenan. Keenan's more of a slot guy. Yeah. I think DJ Moore, like you were saying about Nico Collins, is going to get a lot of big plays downfield. And, DJ Moore has hands. He has hands for days. And he's going to catch those passes. And he's going to bail out Caleb Williams on a lot of the stupid throws that Williams is going to make because he's a rookie. I think DJ Moore has a big year. That's why I'm at 15.
All right, I think it's almost time to start speed running some of these.
All right.
We've been rambling about a lot of wide receiver twos for.
Well, because your top 14, 15 at this point, a lot of it's interchangeable, and
I agree.
Everyone's gonna be
number
saying the
15.
same.
I have Marv.
Okay.
Marvin Harrison Jr. think he's in for a big rookie season.
Yeah, you want to just speed around the rest? All right, I have Marvin Harrison at 14.
Okay. My 14 is Michael Pittman.
I have Michael Pittman at 13.
Consistency.
Yeah,
no,
literally.
Especially with Anthony Richardson and his ability that I believe he has, Michael Pittman's in for a big year.
So you also have both the juniors back to back.
I do. I think they're very similar.
What are we on now, 12?
13.
Oh, Pittman's my 13.
Yeah, I didn't say my 13
Okay.
yet. My 13, Devonta Smith.
I
And I
love
would
that.
not be surprised if he cracks the top 10. But 2 years ago, him and A.J. Brown both finished like 5 and 6 in fantasy. I could see it happening again.
Couldn't agree more. That's why I have him high, but I am concerned. The addition of Saquon Barkley, I think, is going to take away some volume somewhere on that offense. I think the passing attack is going to suffer a little bit. Going on to my 12, I have Drake London.
I have Brandon Ayuk.
Okay.
And number 11, I have Drake London.
I have Brandon Ayuk at number 11.
Look at this.
Yeah, how it works out, huh? Going to the top 10.
Top 10.
Number 10. Who you got 10?
Devontae Adams.
I have Mike Evans.
I got Evans at 9.
I have Adams at 9.
See, like, a lot of these are going to be interchangeable. Like
Yeah.
we said in the top 15, it's kind of falls on preference and who you believe is going to have a big year. Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about these guys leading up to fantasy draft season as we get closer to it. Number 8 now?
8.
Puka Nacua.
Garrett Wilson.
Okay.
I have Puka Nacua at 7.
I have Garrett Wilson at 6.
Okay. They were about to say 7. I was going to say, listen,
No.
that's crazy.
Nacua, we talked about him when we were talking about Cooper Kupp. He's the wide receiver 1 there now. He's taken on Cooper Kupp's role, and Cooper Kupp has kind of had to find his own role.
And Puka's a better athlete than Cooper Kupp was.
Yeah.
I think that's why he is, a little better upside.
Totally agree. Number 7, I got A.J. Brown.
I have A.J. Brown at 6.
This might be a little low for A.J. Brown. I could see him cracking top 3.
I could as well. But again, Saquon Barkley and Devonta Smith may hurt that.
Number 6, I got Garrett Wilson.
I had A.J. Brown at 6.
A healthy season with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what could go wrong?
All right, and you want to just do your
I'll do my
5 through
top
1?
5.
I'll do 5 through 1.
All right, mine's a little interesting. Number 5, I got Jamar Chase. A lot of these are self-explanatory. Number 4, Justin Jefferson. Number 3, CeeDee Lamb. Number 2, Tyreek Hill.
Wow.
And my wide receiver 1 is Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
God damn. Bold, but I love it. Well, it's not that bold. I mean, you're 1 versus 3. My top 5, I have Justin Jefferson at 5. Jamar Chase at 4. Amon-Ra at 3. CeeDee Lamb at 2. Tyreek Hill at 1.
If I had the number 1 pick in fantasy, this is my hot take.
You're taking Amon-Ra?
I might take Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm taking him over any receiver. And for me, it would be between him, Christian McCaffrey, and Breece Hall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I'm very, very high on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Don't get me wrong. I also love Amon-Ra.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go wrong with any of the top 3.
I totally agree.
Because I think it's Hill, Lamb, Amon-Ra are your top 3. They're in tier 1. I think tier 2 probably goes Chase, Jefferson, Brown, Nacua,
Wilson Evans.
I'd cut it off right in Nacua, honestly, for me. And then I'd say tier 3 would be Wilson, Adams, Evans, Ayuk, London.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty similar because a lot of ours were flip-flopped. So,
yeah, so those are our quarterback and wide receiver rankings. In the next episode, you will be hearing our running back and tight end. Hopefully, we'll make that one a little quicker for you guys.
Yeah,
I know we rambled a little bit, but a lot of these are important, especially when you're looking at mid-round pickups for fantasy, when you're looking at wide receivers and even for your quarterbacks.
Like I mentioned earlier, make sure to comment below which quarterback or receiver you want to hear less about. If we didn't mention a guy, who you want us to mention. I'm sure we'll be going. I mean, I did my top 84 receivers.
Jesus.
So I can talk about some sleepers.
I'm up to 50 right now, but it's going to expand.
Yeah, I mean, because I can talk about sleepers all day. I can talk about guys who are maybe going to scrape the practice squad. Let us know in the comments.
Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin.
Is going to be a sleeper in fantasy this year.
I have Troy Franklin as
74.
Yeah, 74.
That's my sleeper of the year.
Yeah, I do think Troy Franklin's in for a big year. But,
I agree.
Comment below if you want to hear us talking about Troy Franklin.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you check us out on social media at IceBath Sports on Instagram and TikTok, at IceBath Pod on Twitter/X, which we don't ever use, but we're going to. And make sure you click the like button and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next episode. And as always, stay cool.
We nailed that. Stay cool.